Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So hopefully we shouldn't keep you too long, but normally when we do these presentations or when the IEEE stands up, folks normally come and say, what the hell is IEEE doing to at these kind of places? So just with a quick show of hands, who is familiar with the IEEE? Okay, that's a very good sign. You guys are in the right place. All right, so let's continue. So, certainly as it relates to IEEE with AR/VR type stuff, we have many different initiatives taking place right now. And what I'm going to do is to give you a very high-level perspective in terms of some of the activities that we have taking place on AR/VR, as well as artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. So I normally like to move around, so I'm kind of tethered to this thing, so you'll have to excuse me a little bit. All right, so again, my name is Lloyd. I'm the Director of Engagement Marketing and Creative Community Services at the IEEE Standards Association. So if you've seen anything from the IEEE in the past, this is one of our standard slides that we normally use. And it's primarily to depict our different engagement models that we have with the IEEE. When folks think of the IEEE and certainly the Standards Association, they typically think of one thing, i.e. developing standards, which certainly is our ultimate goal, but at the end of the day, there's different models in terms of how one can engage with the Standards Association. And here I'm showing three. These are the primary three. So on the top right-hand corner, you'll see IEEE ISTO, which is basically a member alliance which allows entities to come together under a safe harbor, safe umbrella, whereby they can set themselves up as legal operating companies. On the bottom right-hand corner is one of our fairly newer initiatives. Again, not many folks seem to know about this, but this is ICAP, our IEEE Conformity Assessment Program. So yes, we do conformity assessment. We run this around the IEEE standards. So there are many different ones that we're actively involved in. From IEEE 1588, which is primarily a timing and synchronization standard, to camera phone imaging quality, which is a different one which are currently in place. And each year they're doing different things in different areas. So that is an area which has been growing over the last couple of years, but yes, we do conformity assessment. On the left-hand corner, you'll see one called Industry Connections, and certainly this is one which kind of plays into the rest of the presentation as far as the technologies that you will see. Industry Connections is basically a technology incubator. Basically, if you want to come to the IEEE, you're really not too sure what you want to do, you don't really know where you want to end up. This is a platform that allows you to come together, kind of, not so much play around, but see exactly what you want to be. Again, it provides a safe harbor where you can actually do so, and you stay there for a period of time over several years until you make that determination in terms of where you want to go or where you want to grow up to. This is one of the things where I always kind of talk about the different technologies. Again, when folks talk about the IEEE, they normally think of, some of the old type standards which one is familiar with. But there are some very, very interesting things taking place right now. So again, when you look at the IEEE, we're looking at again, it's a platform where it provides a framework where collaboration can take place. We do this around a number of areas. Right now, I'm showing some of the things or some of the areas that we're looking at right now, and these are some of the ongoing ones. We're looking at IoT, we're looking at big data, we're looking at artificial intelligence. We've got cloud, we're doing some things in fog. Certainly my colleague here, Yuan, will talk about DSI, or Digital Sensors Initiative. And certainly, as we're all here for, augmented reality and virtual reality. So these are some of the platforms that we're working on. There are some other ones as well that's not necessarily particular or applicable to this particular area, but we're doing some great things as far as some of the new areas in emerging tech. So again, this is just to talk about some, go into a little bit more detail in terms of what we do for the Industry Connections, or IC program. And as I said before, it's an area where we do pre-standardization work. As it says here, it's an efficient, economical, safe harbor environment where folks can come together, in industry consensus. So, many of the things here again, when you look at the IEEE, there's, folks have this this very old stoic kind of very slow methodological approach to different things. While a lot of that stuff does apply, yes, it does. There are ways that one can actually come in and actually move through the program fairly quickly, and this is one of the vehicles that we provide our customers, that they can actually come in and do some pre-standardization work without having to go through the rigmarole of coming up with a standard initially. So, over the years, the IEEE has said we've been involved in virtual reality for some time now. Certainly, since that I've been there, we've been involved, and that's been 5 years, we've been involved in different aspects of virtual reality. Certainly, over the last 2 years, we've been working very, very closely with USC, or University of Southern California. And we've actually been doing some very, very unique things around hackathon, or hacking medical devices. We typically bring a number of folks together. These are primarily students, other academics, researchers, R&D folks, and they come together and they're given a problem, and a problem based on different areas. They then disappear. As most of us are familiar with the hackathon model, they go away, basically come up with something, and then they present this at the at the end of the 2 or 3 day session. But this particular one was very focused around medical applications. What kind of devices or what kind of app can be created to help solve real life challenges, real problems? So on hand, there were medical staff, medical facilities to actually provide them with guidance, and certainly to help bounce off some ideas. So it was very interactive. It was two-way discussions, and from that, a solution was created. That solution was then graded by a number of industry experts, and an award was given. So, this is, as I said, something we've done over the last 2 years, and certainly we reaped the benefits. It's provided a very close collaborative and consensus type environment with USC. It's a model which we do plan on, hope to replicate in other areas. We've actually worked with Stanford University as well on some aspects. And if you're here with some of the other presentations, one of my colleagues here, Jay Orio, he did do a presentation this morning on mixed reality, and these are some of the things, or some of the new areas that we're actively involved in. One of the other things as well is our work at South by Southwest. Takes place in Austin a couple months ago. Again, we have a very, very large presence there, again, in many different areas. And certainly one of the ones that we recently spoke about there was VR in the arts. We talked about some of the ethics and bringing all this together. What does it mean? How does it work? What does it mean to industry? Who can get involved? So all these different things were discussion points. So again, we continue to work with industry. We continue to have a presence. It's not this very closed, myopic approach is taken. It's very open, very collaborative, and as I said, we do work with industry right away across the board. So this is where our work in the augmented realities began. Our work here began in 2014. We've actually had a presence here, at least attending, for several years, for I think 5 or 6 years now. But again, we recognize the importance of something like an AWE. We recognize the importance of meeting key industry stakeholders. We do recognize the importance of actually meeting with folks like yourself, whereby we can actually have discussions around a collaborative framework. We have discussions around how we can develop standards around different areas. And as we know, when it comes to virtual reality and AR, they're really, certainly historically, there has not been standards as such around this. So we've basically come to call an action whereby we have started a process, develop standards around the AR/VR market. So some of the things that we're also doing, or have been doing, we've been doing smart glasses, we're doing AR applications for oil, gas, and utility industries, and this was huge. Certainly, there's many different applications that one can actually see that in, but again, we can there's folks here we can talk about that, and certainly in a lot more detail. So again, to kind of go back to where we started in terms of, why are we here? Why is the IEEE here? Certainly when we look at standards, standards have a role to play in any particular industry. And certainly as we see it here, standards just basically make things work together. We talk about interoperability, we talk about reliability, we talk about consensus, we talk about innovation. All these are some of the things that we mention when we talk about standards, because they're all very applicable, and I think they're key to to some of the things, and certainly key to what we see here happening at AWE. So this, I think a couple years ago, or even a year ago, where I think we may have had 1 or 2 standards here that pertain to virtual reality. Here today you see 8, and this list is a growing list, and it continues to grow because of the relevance in the market that we're seeing today. These are, the P dictates that these are kind of a work in progress. They're still not finalized as yet, but certainly, there's an opportunity for industry to get involved, to participate in this standards development process. But as you see, there's a whole raft of different areas that we talk about. As an example, the first one, standard for virtual reality and augmented reality, device taxonomy and definitions. These are all the things that are driven by industry. This is not IEEE saying, okay, we need to create a standard around this. These are industry-driven initiatives. So these are the things which industry sees as important and certainly relevant. And we will continue to grow the number of standards which you see here, again, based on industry recommendations. So this one here is very interesting. It's one of the new type works that's taken place within the IEEE. And this one it's all about, there's different talks when we talk about autonomous systems and artificial intelligence. There's all this talk about, okay, what are some of the ethical considerations behind it? If you're looking at an autonomous weaponry, who does it take out? If you're looking at an autonomous vehicle, and the usual kind of example, you have an elderly person and you have a young person, and you have to hit one of them. Who do you hit? Okay, so all these things are very, very important to the autonomous systems and in terms of the decision-making process. So we started an initiative about a year ago which basically tries to bring all of this together. We look at this, and it's basically called the Global Initiative for Ethical Consideration in Artificial Intelligence and Autonomous Systems. And it basically does exactly that. Here we see 3 main pillars. First one being code of ethics, professional ethics, and technology ethics. So let's look at the code of ethics or the professional guidelines. Here, what they're creating primarily a code of ethics around some of the activities or some of the design work around some of these products. When we talk about code of ethics, we're not looking at this as an afterthought. This is in the early design stage, the R&D stage. These are the points that we're looking to actually get folks involved in in this kind of work. Right-hand side, we'll look at the technology ethics. Again, what does that mean when you look at the technologies? We have to, from a technology standpoint, again, design the ethical considerations into all these variations. From the baseline, from the start, again, not an afterthought. And again, on the left-hand side, when we look at professional ethics, we talk about the behavioral impacts. Where, all of us, we come to the table with our own biases, with our own perceptions. We have to ensure that those own personal biases and perceptions are not part of the design of any of these systems. It has to be very open, very impartial. And this work that we're doing basically tries to address that. Why was it founded in the first place? And again, I think the top line says it all, to move beyond the fear and the uncritical admiration regarding autonomous and intelligence technologies. Now, there are 2 different camps that you may be looking at here. There's certainly the ones who's pro this kind of technology, and there's certainly the ones who's against it, and for very valid reasons. We can certainly see the benefit of having a technology which basically, can put us somewhere in a moment's time, takes us out of the environment that we're in, and provides this real immersive experience. Certainly, when we look at the work from some of the stuff that we're doing at USC, there are some other applications, whether it be medical, whether it be learning, whether it be whatever the case may be. There are certainly real, clear benefits to some of these technology advancements. But at the same time, technology, as we know, if it's placed in the wrong hands, negative things can happen. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that from a negative perspective, we take into consideration all these different aspects. So The mission here, as I said, is fairly straightforward. It's it's a readable slide, but to ensure every technologist is educated, trained, and empowered to prioritize ethical consideration in the design and development of autonomous and intelligent systems. And these are actually very, very key points. So the actual work which is taking place now, there's a excuse me, there's a document which has been created. Which is this one, which is called the EAD, the Ethically Aligned Design Document. It's something which has been assembled now or created with input from about 110 different members from the industry. And again, these are not just academics, they're not just technologists, they're lawyers, they're humanitarians, they're educational folks. It covers the wide gamut of folks with different perspectives. The book itself is broken down into 8 different core areas. Each of these core areas basically take up several pages, and it opens up a discussion. This whole document is about a discussion, basically trying to bring folks into the equation to have a discussion around, the legal aspects of this. How does this play? To have a discussion around weaponry. What kind of impact does the weaponry play when it comes to autonomous systems? To talk about the humanitarian aspects, there are whole different things here. So this is version 1, which some of the members in this room here, Patty over there in the corner, thank you so much, Patty, was key and instrumental in terms of putting this together. And this is version 1. It was launched late last year, and we're now looking at version 2. Version 2 now takes into effect over 200 different inputs from different folks, again, across the world, not just North American centric. Here in North America, we like to talk about North America being very global, and our viewpoints of somewhere international is on the East Coast. So this takes into consideration a very global perspective, and as I said, version 2 is coming out later on this year. Right now, what we've been doing, we've actually had folks reviewing this and then providing feedback, so then it goes into version 2. So, from this work here, we talked about, here I'm only showing 2 standards which are being created, P7001 and 7002. Right now, we're actually up to P7006. P7006. So, the work, again, continues to grow from a standardization perspective. Same thing applies as some of the previous work we've been doing. This is all industry-driven. This, again, is not just the IEEE saying, this sounds like a great idea, but we try to, we work with industry to say, okay, what's actually relevant? What is actually important to you, the community, as some of the areas that we need to work on, at least develop a framework or a standard around. So as I said, we're up to P7000 and 7006, and we actually have a press release coming out about that within the next couple of weeks. So, certainly as far as our path going forward, certainly there's different engagement models, as I indicated, that one can participate with, with the IEEE. Certainly when we look at the areas, the AR, VR, AIS, and AS, these are all some of our technology, emerging technology areas. The industry connections area, that's certainly a major group, or one of the key groups for folks to actually get involved and participate and use this as a foray, or certainly as a, an entry-level vehicle to come into the IEEE to actually do some work. So, we continue to do that. We do actually have a booth here as well, which obviously the exhibits opens up tomorrow. I don't remember the booth number, but we're booth 101, so we're fairly prominent. So again, if you have additional questions, we do have a number of IEEE staff here. We have Jay, we have Shri, we have Patty, you have myself, and then again, we're supported by a number of volunteers, Yuan being one of those extremely high-profile volunteers. So again, please feel free to stop by. We welcome any discussions that you may have around some of these emerging technologies, and specifically as it relates to AR, VR. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to give you a little bit more details about the P2048 standard series and the Digital Census Initiative. The Digital Census Initiative, as you can see our logo on the sponsors, the materials, we are one of the IEEE Future Directions initiatives, which are supposed to cover multidisciplinary collaborations, especially on the hottest topics for the next 5 to 10 years. So currently we are supported by a bunch of IEEE societies and councils, as well as IEEE Standards Association. And our scope, actually, we cover 3 focus areas: virtual reality, augmented reality, and human augmentation. And because we think all the 3 areas can be considered as this re-engineering human senses for better reality. So the Digital Census Initiative, the term senses here are about human senses. So we want to understand how we can capture, reproduce, synthesize, understand, and respond upon various human senses from sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste and other senses, so that we can better enable and support virtual reality, augmented reality, and human augmentation. And we also want to address non-technical issues such as public awareness, user acceptance, content richness, as well as security, trust, ethics, things like that. And the most important point here is that we strongly believe that all these 3 areas, virtual reality, augmented reality, and human augmentation, have great potential to become game-changing forces to many other industries. So eventually we expect that these new technologies will be able to transform other industries or maybe even fundamentally change the game rules in other industries. So as we just described, this is our technology map and gap analysis. So if we look at this matrix, each row shows a different category of processing the human sense input, how to capture, reproduce, synthesize, understand, and respond upon. And each column represents one of the human senses. You can see today's technologies, we are sort of in a better shape in terms of the top left corner of this matrix, like processing video and audio. In other words, processing human sight and hearing. But for the other senses like touch, smell, and taste, and even other senses like motion, like other kinds of human senses, we are still at a very initial stage. So that's why we established this Digital Census Initiative to encourage and facilitate the cross-disciplinary collaboration between brain and cognitive sciences and the computer science and the EE in order to promote the development of the next generation enabling technologies for VR, AR, and human augmentation. So we have several kinds of activities under this umbrella, under this Digital Census Initiative, including industry collaborations, standards activities. We have publicity and communications. We support conferences. We develop membership and educational activities, and also we produce publications. So today I'd like to highlight our standards activities. As Lloyd mentioned before, IEEE has been working on leading the standards activity development in many areas. So for Digital Census Initiative, we want to work with other SDOs to harmonize the existing standards, identify new standardization needs, and develop new standards and provide reference implementations, eventually facilitate the global adoption. Well, we are working on collaborations with other SDOs like kernels, like ISO, IEC, GTC1, like ITU. Last week I spoke at the ITU SG9 working group, and we had a very very productive discussion regarding joint projects between IEEE and ITU in terms of the VR and AR standards development. And we are also trying to collaborate with other SDOs, like I mentioned, CTA, kernels, ISO, IEC, GTC1, SA24, and SA29, and so on. So currently, under this umbrella data census initiative, we now have 12 standards projects under the family 2048. The 2048.9 to 2.12 were recently approved. I think it's just 2 weeks ago. And also, we are sponsoring the P3141 standard for 3D body processing. We also have several pre-standardization efforts, including the Lloyd mentioned these three before: 3D body processing, smart glasses roadmap, and AR in the oil, gas, and the electric industry. And we are going to launch another one, hopefully to be approved in the mid-June. This mid-June, that would be an IEEE AR and VR Advisory Council to accommodate more individual experts to work with us and provide advice and input for the VR and AR standards. So the working group overseeing all the currently, all the 12 P2048 standards are the IEEE VR and AR working group. Well, I should revise this. It's developing 12 instead of 8 for VR and AR. So we have attracted lots of participants all over the world. I'm maintaining a sign-up sheet for more than 300 persons. But although we already have 12 standards, as we mentioned before, the technology is still evolving very fast. So our current 12 standards only cover a very small piece of the landscape. And we look forward to, we actually are expecting receiving more proposals in the coming months, and some of them might eventually become new projects. And also we look forward to collaborating with other SDOs. So let me briefly introduce all these 12 2048 standards projects, as well as the P3141. 2048.1 is about device taxonomy and definitions to help the release the problems in the confusing market. This is sort of a regulating standard. The 2 is about immersive video taxonomy and quality matrix, trying to specify how immersive video, no matter you call that VR video or 360-degree video, they have various aspects to be measured. Dot 3 is about the file and stream formats. We expect this standard we need to collaborate with other SDOs like ISO, like ITU to reference or integrate their existing MPEG series, H.26 X series in these standards, but maybe we add some application layer or additional metadata for the usage of this their file and stream formats in the context of VR and AR. Dot 4 is about the person identity. So this is about how you can verify if a person wearing your avatar is that you or another guy. So we need some protocol to address this problem. This is, would be related to your privacy and the security of maybe your payment in the VR world. Dot 5 is about environment safety. It's about how people can still be safe when they are wearing the VR and the AR, VR or AR devices. Dot 6 is about immersive user interface. We want to address, we want to specify some baseline protocol for the user interface in the immersive environment. Dot 7 is about map for virtual objects in the real world. This is sort of like an interoperability protocol for different AR and MR vendors. For example, if I use a Microsoft HoloLens to put a virtual screen on the wall, and you are wearing a Meta headset, you should still be able to see the virtual screen that I put with the HoloLens. That is about the interoperability between various AR and MR vendors. Dot 8 is about interoperability between virtual objects and the real world. So we expect there might be something like smart home protocols being referenced or leveraged in this standard, like how we can use a virtual switch on the wall to turn on the real air conditioner in the real world, things like that. Dot 9 is about immersive audio, taxonomy, and quality matrix, the equivalent to the Dot 2, which is about immersive audio, video. Dot 10 is about the audio file and the stream formats, which is equivalent to the Dot 3 immersive video file and the stream formats. Also, we expect that this standard we need to work or leverage from other SDLs like the ISO and the ITU, their MPEG series and H dot series. And Dot 11 is an application level standard. It's about in-vehicle AR. We have received lots of requests or lots of interest from the automotive industry. They have been using AR for driving assistance for a while. So we want to specify, define an overarching framework for the AR systems in the driving system. Driving assistance and also the passenger infotainment systems in vehicles. Dot 12 is about content ratings and descriptors. So we know there are already standards about content ratings and descriptors. However, in addition to the traditional factors like nudity and violence, virtual reality raised a new problem. Like for example, if your physical body is not good for roller coaster, and if you are not warned before, you wear a VR headset and enter a content which includes something like a roller coaster, you might be in a danger. So we believe VR content will need additional ratings and descriptors, especially from the physical and psychological safety perspective. So the next meeting of this working group will be held just on the day after tomorrow at the Great American Meeting Room 3. So you are very welcome to join this session on June 2nd. And this P3141 is about the 3-body processing, how to capture and process your human body 3D data. So basically, that's everything. And also, currently it's free for you to join the IEEE Digital Census community. And there's my email address. If you have any questions or want to follow up with me, feel free to drop me an email. Thank you so much.